Okay, we will bring this regular council meeting to order for April the 10th at 3 p.m. And I will call on Councillor Harrison to read the land acknowledgement, please.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. The town of Innisfail acknowledges that we are meeting on Treaty 7 territory, the ancestral and traditional territory of the Blackfoot Confederacy, the Kainai, Piikani, Siksika, as well as the Tustina First Nation and Stoney Nakoda First Nation. We acknowledge that this territory is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3, within the historical Northwest Métis homeland. We acknowledge that many First Nations, Métis and Inuit, who have lived in and cared for these lands for generations. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We make this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation and gratitude to those whose territory we reside on.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. And we will move into 2.1. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No. Could I please have someone make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion, Mayor Barkley.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Messaros. All in favor? Okay, then we will move into 3.1, the regular council meeting minutes for March 27th. Councillor Bates.
I'll move those minutes.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion, questions? No, all in favor? Okay, and then April 3rd, agenda and priorities meeting minutes. Councillor Wing.
I would move approval, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? No, all in favor? Okay, carried, thank you. And we will move into 4.1 with CEO Becker and his report for us.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Hello, Council. Just a few items for your attention, and certainly ask any questions of administration with any operational updates you require. Attended the Alberta Municipalities President's Summit and Spring Leaders Caucus with several of you in Edmonton, March 29th through 31st. Council did report on this previously, so I won't go into really much detail. Just to highlight one of the highlights, but just curious or is kind of neat to see the AM's some of their priorities leading into the provincial election, their priorities being community safety, community investment in infrastructure, and community health care, which aligns quite well with Council's priorities. Since it's been a week since we really did a plug on communications department, I want to formally acknowledge the communications team for their work at the trade show, as well as the Innisfail Energy Hub last week. Again, Ken hasn't received his kudos this week, so I thought I'd just start off this week on a positive note. So good work, Ken and Shelby. In relation to Council's strategic priorities direction at the April 3rd AMP meeting, administration will be conducting a final project scope review of the Community Safety and Wellness Plan RFQ. As you recall, Council, we've been waiting several months on the outcome of the grants, which we did not receive grant, but we do have dollars in the budget to advance. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention that the RFQ will be released likely over the next few weeks. Other than that, if there's any questions, Council.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for CEO Becker? None. Could I please have someone make the recommended motion? Councillor Messaros.
I'll move that Council approves the Chief Administrative Officer report dated April 10th, 2023 as information.
All right, thank you. All in favor? Okay, carried, thank you. And we'll move into 4.2, the Council Action Control. Anybody have any questions about this? I see some dates have been adjusted. And if there are none, then I'll please have someone make a motion to accept this as information.
I'll move the Council Action Control for information.
All right, thank you. All in favor? All right, carried. Okay, and we'll move to 4.3. So I'd like to invite Staff Sergeant Ian Imey to come forward and with CEO Becker present the RCMP annual policing priority. So I know we had a little get together before the meeting, but I'll make this official to welcome Staff Sergeant Ian Imey. That has a nice ring to it, and we're very pleased that you were hired for the position. And so I won't say welcome because you were already here, but we're really pleased to be working with you and look forward to the next several years.
All right. So the Police Advisory Committee met a few weeks ago, and we discussed strategic planning for the coming year. What the policing committee had done was put out a survey to the town that ran for a few weeks, just to get some feedback on policing priorities and initiatives and what people in the town wanted to see from the police. And really one of the big themes that really stood out from that survey was visibility of the police. That was probably the number one thing, and sometimes in an indirect way, sometimes in a direct way, that people were wanting to see. So that was definitely the overall theme for the proposed priorities and initiatives that the policing committee came forward to bring to council. So as a whole, the priorities the committee looked at were essentially the same as the previous fiscal year. So whereas last year, the priorities were prolific offenders and crime reduction, enhanced awareness and education, and police community relations, and then enhanced road safety. And this year, they pretty much stayed the same with a little bit of wording changes, but the first being police community relations, visibility of the police, crime reduction, and enhanced road safety as well. So keeping to the main theme of police visibility, the things that we looked at were things that got the police out in the community, being visible, being seen by people. So the initiatives that were proposed for these different priorities, for the community relations, we were going to increase member attendance and participation in community events, which was an initiative that we did last year as well. We were aiming to do 50 events, and I believe we did 126 events last year. And that's unique events, not 10 people showing up at the same thing. That's unique actual things that my guys were out and participating in with the community. We're also added town halls again to the initiatives. We're planning on doing 2 at least this year. And then another initiative that we've brought back this year that kind of died during COVID was youth positive ticketing. So we're going to partner with the town and with the CPOs and have our guys out interacting with youth and having those positive interactions with the youth in the community. Under crime reduction, we've included again habitual priority offender checks like we did last year, and then we've also added a new category of habitual crime properties. So these are some of the properties in town that maybe don't have a specific offender that are at it, but the properties themselves are a problem for the town. So places such as the Bluebird, for instance, plus a few others in town. And then the other initiative that we added this year is a specific one for foot patrols, bike patrols, and increased quad patrols. So we haven't had a lot of bike patrols through the town in the last few years, but it's something that we're definitely bringing back. We've already started it this year. We had, my guys were wandering around downtown, and a community member came up and asked if they were lost because they kept seeing them all over town. So, which is good. So they're already being noticed, and we're hoping to have this just as a normal thing, have people outside, because obviously when people are walking around interacting with people, people are more likely to stop and chat and talk about their issues than if you're just driving around in a police car as a kind of a faceless cop. So, and then for traffic safety, we'll be focusing on provincial enforcement and high visibility traffic operations like we did last year. So check stops where people see the police out doing what we do. So, yeah, so those are the three priorities, and then those are the different objectives for each of them.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Bates?
I think I have one, and I'm not sure if it's to admin or at the Police and Safe Communities committee meeting, we talked about these, and of course we all saw the quad at the trade show. I think Manager Leith was going to check to see if our bylaws, if that worked. Do we know if that's potentially going to work?
Mayor Barkley, Councillor Bates, don't have an answer for that today, but something we'll explore with Manager Leith.
Okay, because I certainly do believe that would add to visibility. Yeah, there, yeah, for sure, and mobility. You know, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so just so council's aware that the detachment has 2 brand new quads. All of our members are getting quad trained in 3 or 4 weeks from now. So we do use them for, patrols out in the county, and we had talked about maybe using them a little bit more in town too for that kind of high visibility. They're not really great for sneaking up on people, but it's almost the opposite effect. People see us and hear us, and obviously not during sleeping hours, but right, it's just another tool to kind of get out there and interact with people.
Staff Sergeant Imee, at the East Rural Town Hall that was at the Legion a couple of weekends ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, someone asked you about members for county. Can you explain that a little bit to council here, the number of members that are attached to the county work and number of members in town, and how that works with scheduling?
Sure, yeah. So it's not, so we don't have I'll say a different role between our county or our provincially funded positions and then the positions that are funded by the town. So the RCMP, for the most part, in K Division works on what they call the post model, which means the detachment just works at all the work that needs to be done in the area. Whereas there's positions that are paid for by the town here, which are 10, I believe, and then there's 8 that are paid for by the province. So the question had come up, and often comes up from the rural community members, that now that the rural communities are paying more for policing, what should they sometimes think they should be getting this increased service. And then I'm not sure if it was during the meeting or afterwards where I tried to explain that the tax base that, say, the town of Penhold pays for the RCMP is not very high compared to what the town of Innisfail does. Town of Innisfail is funding 10 positions. Town of Penhold, I believe, funds closer to like a quarter of a position. So yeah, so as far as scheduling, our members, they're not split into county or town. Whoever's working deals with whatever. Sometimes there could be 2 or 3 provincially funded positions and no town positions, but they still respond to the town just the same. So.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions? No? Okay. I'll have somebody please make the recommended motion then. Councillor Harrison?
I'd so move that we approve the RCMP strategic priorities and the corresponding policing initiatives as recommended by the policing and safety community as follows. Priority issue, policing community relations, visibility of police initiatives. Priority 2, crime reduction, property and drug crime initiatives. And priority 3, traffic safety.
Perfect, thank you. All in favor? Great, carried. Thank you very much. And then CEO Becker, are you going to move into the RCMP invoice?
Yes,
Okay,
that's going to defer it.
what's that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, okay.
That's for the agenda.
Sorry, our package was a bit mixed up, so
Oh, okay.
yeah, so carry on.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Just wanted to provide council some correspondence. Again, when we receive correspondence and requires the direct eyes of council, potential action based on your judgment and deliberation. So this case here, we received some correspondence from the federal government regarding, from the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. The FCM provided this correspondence expressing disappointment in the federal government's decision to not absorb retroactive costs despite months of municipal advocacy in regarding the RCMP retroactive pay. FCM has provided a draft press release and a draft resolution for council's consideration, which has been modified under the town's logo and letterhead. So there for your consideration, council. One item that is not included in this report is the ability to enter into a payment schedule with the federal government by April 15th, 2023. So a couple days with the final payment of the retroactive pay made by March 31st, 2025. So based on the report, council, just looking for your consideration. If you wish to make the motion as per the report, it's pretty lengthy. So it does cover most components of FCM's concerns with retroactive pay being placed back onto municipalities. So looking if you have any questions in regard to the recommended motions.
All right, could I please have somebody make the recommended motion? Councillor Harrison was first, and then Councillor Wing.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Barkley. I so move that, I'm not going to read the whole motion, but I so move that we, as per the package, that we move. And with that, I have a question.
Go ahead.
And the question is, thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to CAO Becker. The April the 15th deadline, if we go ahead with the response in a letter not acknowledging, but the payback, does that meet the requirement of the April 15th deadline? Like, or do we have to respond by saying yay or nay on the payback?
Member Barkley, Councillor Harrison, yeah, the federal government's asking municipalities to fill out a form indicating we wish to delay payments up to 2 years as of March 31st. If we don't sign in delayed payment, they're assuming that we're going to be paying the bill almost immediately. Just to remind council, previously you withheld payments of that retroactive pay to allow the different means and yourselves to advocate on who should be paying this retroactive bill. So if council feels you'd like to delay to see what advocacy could be placed, it'd be my advisement administration to delay as long as possible till another time.
A supplemental then through to CAO Becker. We're not committing ourselves to anything if we don't sign the letter of intent? I guess what I'm concerned about is that we advocate for not, or reducing or something to do with the back payment. And if we get into a situation where we commit to something, where does that leave us in the advocacy process? Like, do we still have a little bit of clout as a municipality?
Councillor Harrison, so if you do not sign the agreement or delay, make a decision to delay, then you're paying the bill right away. So it'd be my advice to you, if you wish to consider advocating and working with other stakeholders to apply advocacy, I'd say sign off with that delayed payment up to that 2-year period.
Okay, thank you, and I would certainly support that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. Councillor Bates?
Yeah, well, I believe the information we had from Alberta municipalities and FCM as well is that they still intend to pursue it further. I guess I'm wondering, but we're being asked to sign, even if we want to delay it, we're being asked to more or less say we're going to pay it. Is that what I'm hearing between the lines here? So, you know, if we want to delay it, we have to sign that, yes, we'll pay it in the next 2 years.
Right now, Councillor Bates, it's the expectation the municipalities will be paying the bill. So ours, you know, $288,000. So there's nothing saying we're not paying. So it's on the town of Innisfail. So you're either paying it all right now, or you're paying some or whatever portion up to 2 years later. So to give you a chance, so both, I guess, in a form you are saying you're paying it, but there's no question box saying, no, we're not paying this.
So do we get the opportunity to check with Alberta municipalities and make sure we're not going out of step here with what they're trying to do?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that there's a confirmation of intent form that in our agenda package. So there is room in there for additional comments. I guess we can tick the box that we will delay and keep advocating. But I think you're right. If we don't do anything, we're going to get a bill, an invoice.
Yeah. So the way I see it, Council, is you can respond and we're not signing and we're expecting not to pay. You could take that immediate action advocacy role with a strong stance. So you have that ability to say, no, we're not paying. Or you can say, move to direct administration to enter into the RCMP retroactive costs payment schedule, delay with the federal government.
I guess what I want to do
Or
is,
you do nothing and expect that invoice to come in immediately.
I think what I want to do is just make sure that we're in step with what Alberta municipalities whatever that is, if it's. No, but AM is, I think, when I followed the convention last week on Zoom, or they were saying that they're not done. We're going to keep trying for a couple of years.
Yeah,
That's
it's-
what I thought I heard.
You did, and it's being driven by FCM, though. Like, that's the federal body is really
So
pushing this
I'm
to
in
keep
agreement
advocating.
with, as long as we're not stepping out of line with what FCM and AM is trying to do with their advocacy efforts. I want to stay in tow, as long as we're sure of that.
For transparency, Mayor Barkley and the council, follow-up did not occur with AM in regards to this correspondence. So that's something, if council wishes, we can certainly do that prior to any decision of council, although it'd be delay, a couple weeks. If you wish to hear back from AM, then certainly you could direct us to do that.
Yeah, they would like this letter back by April 15th. It's confirmation of intent. So, up to council, what you want to do. So, oh, sorry, Councillor Wing.
No, it's, my only thought on it is if we commit now to just saying we'll take the extension of 2 years, we could decide to pay it off at any time. There's nothing that says we can't, and that won't put us out of step with any of the other advocacy that's going on, I don't believe. So I think we should probably just ask for or take the extended 2-year payment plan and hope that calmer and cooler heads prevail in this conversation.
Anybody else? Okay, so we have a motion on the table. All in favor that the town of Innisfail conveys the support in writing to advocate for the federal government to pay this instead of putting some of it on municipalities. All in favor? Okay, nobody opposed? Okay, carried, thank you. And then we also have item number 2 is also a recommended motion. Would somebody like to make that, please?
Relative to the press release. Mayor Barkley, I would move that council authorizes the press release as a public response to the federal government's decision to pass the retroactive RCMP collective bargaining agreement costs to municipalities.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion about that? Okay, all in favor? Great, thank you, carried.
And Mayor Barkley, my apologies.
Yep.
So just on that third item, just regarding that agreement for the 2-year period, I just want to it's probably proper to have a resolution. Would council consider that a motion to direct administration to enter into an RCMP retroactive costs payment schedule with the federal government?
Okay, would somebody like to make that motion? So this is motion number 3.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, perfect.
I'll make that motion as per the CAO's dialogue.
Okay, don't want to repeat it for us. Okay, all in favor? Okay, thank you. Carried. Okay, we will move into 5.1 with Director Vickers and the property tax rate bylaw.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Barkley. Okay, Vanessa, did you want to put up the PowerPoint? Okay, so I'm here to present to Mayor and Council the 2023 property tax bylaw. So property taxes are a means to which municipalities generate revenue to fund sources, infrastructure, as well as reserves. Property tax is the single largest revenue source for municipalities. The average amongst Alberta municipalities sits around 60%, where Innisfail sits below 50%. So that means we get more than 50% of our revenue outside of property tax. Property taxes are based on the fee-for-service model. They pay for services that have a clear public benefit, for example, roads or the aquatic center, for example. And property taxes compensate for services where cost recovery is partial, so fire, recreation, transit, culture, and so on. Okay, so annually, council is required to authorize tax rates sufficient to generate tax revenues to support municipal services, which is based on the approved municipal operating budget, as well as some requisitions received. And we receive those from the Parkland Foundation, through Education Services, as well as designated industrial property. During our annual budget deliberations, administration recommends municipal tax rates for residential and non-residential properties based upon assessed property values, the budgeted tax requirement, and any other direction that is provided by council. So at the December 12th, 2022 council meeting, council did approve the 2023 operating budget with a tax requirement of just over $11.4 million. This was based on estimates given to us by our assessor, which is Wild Rose Assessments, in November 2022. During the 2023 budget deliberations, administration presented an estimated tax assessment to council and used those numbers in calculating the total tax requirement. The budgeted amount was $8.382 million. We have now since received the official assessment in February of 23, and as shown in the attached property tax estimate, the town is seeing an increase in assessment of just over $26.6 million from our estimated figures. This gives us slight overall assessment growth of 2.26%. The increase of assessment coupled with the 4% tax increase we are seeing, a tax amount of $8.795 million, which is an increase of $413,000 over our budgeted amount. So I added this just so we can see where our general municipal, so that's all of our residential and our non-residential, and then as well as our machinery and equipment. So yeah, so with the 4% tax increase, as well as that increase in assessment, we are seeing that budget increase of $413,000. If we did want to look at some different percentages, I just did want to put the amounts in there to see what our increase would be if we change the percentage. And then on these pages here, I did want to bring in some comparisons for what each percentage would look like. So I started at 4 because that's what is being presented today, and that's what was initially approved in budget. So these are actual properties in town. For example, so the first one is a residential property that had a percentage or a dollar value, assessed value, sorry, of $212,000. This year they went up to $242,000. So their total tax increase, if we leave it at 4%, will be $341 for the entire year. And so on and so forth. There's 4 pages altogether, so this one's at a 4%, then I also did a 3%, a 2%, and a 1%. So I did 10 properties for residential and 10 properties at non-residential. So we can go to the next one. So that's 3%, 2%, 1%. I did want to add this, that the Fortis franchise fee did increase in 2023. It went from $11.13 to $12.62. Those are based on the estimates given to us by Fortis. And so that works on an average increase of $1.49 per month. That works out to $17.88 annually. That would be in addition to any tax increase that they receive. So when we did present the tax, during budget deliberations, when we presented the tax amounts to council, we did provide some proposed tax increases from surrounding municipalities. So most of those municipalities have now since gone on and approved their tax rate through their budget. And most of those you can see there, very few changed. A few of the big ones like Morinville did not do their 10%. They actually only ended up doing a 3.5. But if you see Ponoka, they proposed 4, they did approve 4 in their budget. Rocky Mountain House went 2 and 2. Edson actually went up from 7.5 to 8.25. So we just wanted to provide that there's still some fairly significant tax increases across the province this year. So some of the items that were cut from the budget deliberations last November, and some items that have come up as new potential projects that weren't included in the 2023 budget, could be a potential avenue for where some of those increased dollars could go to. So some of the items that were cut from the budget was, there was a new section of sidewalk that was cut out. Our citizens' perspective survey was cut out this year. DocuSign and events were reduced by $20,000. And some of the new projects that could go towards, this extra money could go towards the Aquatic Center. That's sitting around with a price tag of $28 million. We just heard about the RCMP back pay. While I know that we may be signing a document and pushing it off for 2 years, this would be an avenue that, should it come out that we still have to pay it, this would give us a little bit of a cushion somewhere. We'd put it into reserve with the intent to pay this off. So the Dodds Lake parking lot redesign would be $250,000. Highway 54 pedestrian crossing is $150,000. And I say the new dog park parking lot, it's that secondary parking lot that would make it easier, that's been requested to do. So that's $75,000, as well as we have the 50th Street entrance sign, as well as our phase 1 of the cemetery infill. Those prices are to be determined, but they will be coming forward to you sometime this year as well. I did want to add this sheet in there again. This was provided to you guys at budget time, just to maintain that we are needing to increase, to build debt in our budget for a future aquatic center, or whatever that may look like in the end, just to show that we are looking at increased percentages just specifically for debt alone in the years 24, 25, and 26. Okay, and I just wanted to show this sheet again, just to show that in the last, since 2015, we've only had a tax increase in 2019 and 2022. Okay, so these are currently the proposed mill rates. So for the top 3, the 2023 mill rates does include the 4% tax increase. And the rates below for residential, non-residential school, the Parkland Foundation, and the designated industrial properties are all set for us by those entities. So those ones we can't adjust, but it'll be the top ones that we can adjust. Okay, taxes must be paid without penalty on or before the June 30th deadline, and then further penalties apply as follows. So on July 1st, an 8% of current only balances, so that is just the current year's taxes. And then again on September 1st, it's a 4% of just the current year's balance. And then on January 1st the following year, that's a 12% of total outstanding balance. And just as a disclosure, at one of the next regular council meetings, administration will be presenting our 2022 fourth quarter financials and our surplus allocation, along with the 2022 audit. The projected 2022 year-end surplus will be approximately $480,000. And over half of that is coming from the increased investment interest. And we felt that that should be disclosed to council prior to the mill rate bylaw being passed. So the approval of the tax rate bylaw ensures that administration is able to issue the tax notices, which provide the total taxation revenues as shown in the 2023 operating budget that was passed by council. Administration will mail combined taxation and assessment notices by April 21st, 2023, as per the approved bylaw, and will take additional notification via our current communication tools.
Okay, thank you, Director Vickers. If I could have somebody make the first motion, and then we'll open it up and have a discussion. Councillor Harrison.
I so move that council accepts and gives bylaw 1709-2023 property tax bylaw first reading.
All right, thank you. And Director Vickers, can I just have you put, or I guess Vanessa, put the slide back up where it showed the various properties, both res and non-residential, and just so that's in front of us. Oops, there we go. Okay, so does anybody have any discussion points they would like to bring up? Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, and it's more of a comment around the surpluses we're looking at. You know, we've spent a lot of time discussing the new aquatic center. We've put a number of resources into planning going forth for that new aquatic center, and we've got a tentative budget for it, about $28 million. So I look at these surpluses, and I would suggest that, yes, we've cut things out of the budget, but they're not really the to-do things. I think until we get sort of figured out where we're headed with this aquatic center, that these surpluses, both the assessment and the budgeted, or the surpluses from our last year's budget, be put aside to cover some of those costs, because $28 million is a lot of money, and it's got to come from somewhere. And we're still unsure on grant dollars. We're unsure on a number of things for revenue generation. So I'd feel real comfortable, or more comfortable, if we could take those close to that $1 million and put it into a dedicated aquatic center reserve, however administration would like to set that up. But I really think, looking forward, our constituents have said this is what they want, and I think this is a good start. That's 1/28 to the total budget. So that would be my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bates?
I wouldn't argue with that. I don't think we need to worry about where it goes today. It's whether or not we do it. Without the numbers that are here now in front of us, I wasn't, sure where this discussion would go, and I'm still not. When I look at the 10 properties that are up there, there's one that's almost not getting an increase, 2. But there's like 5 that are getting 10% with the combination of assessment plus the 4. That's just pure math.
Mayor Barkley, so that first property, number 1, if the assessment had not changed, a 4% tax increase would be about $100. So it's about $25 at around that $2.15 mark per percent, right? So even if this person had no increased assessment, it would be about $100 increase.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm just taking, so there's 10 properties, two of which don't get much of anything, even if you did the 4. But 5 of which get 10%, or even some, that first one gets more, but it's just a lot to a lot of them. The other question that I was going to ask, without seeing these numbers, was pretty much, given the recommended motions, are we getting a solid recommendation from all of administration that this is what we should do, the 4% with the surplus and the assessment increase? Are we getting that as a solid recommendation?
I guess, Council, it's really, what's your priorities? You talked about this during your budget deliberation, and there's a few of those items that were removed, but we're hearing loud and clear within your priorities that the aquatic center is one of your highest priorities, and if you want to delay, you need the money to come somehow, sometime, somewhere. So it really depends on you, Council, of your priorities. If this is it's our advice to you is based on your priorities. If you want to advance into aquatic center, then yeah, it makes sense to advise you that this a good way to go is to start building your reserves and a mechanism to buy debt.
So, Director Kennedy, can you remind me where the sidewalk that we took out of the budget deliberations, where was that going again? Was it 48th East?
Yeah,
48th
48th Street, east of 49th Avenue.
Okay.
So we replaced one section of sidewalk there. We were just doing a connector.
And how far was that?
1 block.
Oh, only one, okay.
Yep.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Wing?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Certainly, certainly agree with concerns that have been raised by Councillor Bates, but certainly also completely agree with Councillor Harrison's observations. I, at this point, would not be encouraged to reconsider the budget decisions that we've already made. I think the process around that was hearty and healthy, and so I'm fine with that. I would like to see, us reserve some of the surplus, combination surplus with year-end, as well as this particular picture, certainly for whatever our future recreation facilities might look like. But I can't help, I would put on the table, I would actually like to consider, since we have the money, that we should be reserving the RCMP back pay, so that in the next 2 years, whenever it happens to come up, at least we have the money sitting there waiting. I believe it's a matter of time, so I would encourage us to consider putting that into a reserve, but then certainly funding that recreation facility surplus or reserve. Thank you.
Councillor Messaros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Those would be my top 2 priorities as well, just wanting to be on the safe side with the RCMP retroactive pay and thinking about putting some money in the reserves for the aquatic center.
Okay, thank you. So Director Vickers, with the RCMP retroactive, does that go into, would you put that into operating or something else? Reserve?
Mayor Barkley, we would put it into a restricted reserve so
Okay.
that it could only be pulled
Yeah.
out for that specific reason
Okay.
without a secondary council motion.
Okay, so that's about 600,000, or 300,000, I should say, and then
That's
the
correct.
other is, what are we at, 100 from this,
Correct.
plus the surplus from whatever we see the auditors bring forward.
Yes,
So put that into
the aquatic center.
aquatic center, recreation, that facility reserve we have. I think it's at 1.2-ish.
Something like that.
Yeah,
yeah,
so
right.
we only have another 26 million to go. Okay.
And Mayor Barkley, should that be the issue, we can bring forward a budget adjustment to actually change this year's budget to show those transfer to reserves to make sure that they're not lost or not
Yeah.
either. Right?
Yeah, I also look at other expenses that, like, we are incurring in this budget. I mean, the money that's going into the existing aquatic center and maintenance and the arena, and, you know, it doesn't take long. How much, Director Kennedy, is 2 blocks of infrastructure full replacement? Sidewalks, roads, and underground?
Yeah, that's over 800,000.
Yeah. Yeah. So it doesn't take long to eat up, and we've seen revenues from other levels of government. They continue to seem to be going the wrong way for us for some time now, so we need to save this. Councillor Bates?
I just wanted to ask one question back to, and I don't disagree with any of the comments that have been made about where we would use this. None, no problem with that. When we deliberated and came with the 4%, I think it was even in our press release, but I don't remember the number. What was the average that we estimated that the tax, that 4% would be to the average home?
Yeah, Mayor Barkley, through to Councillor, I have to look. I don't have that number off the top of my.
I think on a $300,000 house, or 350, it was around $8 a month.
So about $100 a year.
Yeah, 80, 85, yeah, 90, 96 actually. So yeah, it's changed quite a bit from that because of the assessment.
What we don't have, like, are these 10 properties random, or are they intended to try and get a cross-section of areas of the town at plus values, or?
They are intended to be a wide variety of different rates. They are just the same 10 properties that we use year after year, so. To be honest, I don't even know who they are.
Yeah, and we need to be just concerned of the impact on non-residential as well, right? Some of them got a special tax a couple of weeks ago, and now this on top of it, so it's
Yes.
adds up.
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about the special tax, but it was peanuts compared to where this is going.
Okay, so we have a motion. Councillor Harrison has made a motion. for a first reading. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay. And we'll have somebody make the next motion, please.
I'll make that motion, Mayor Barkley, that council accepts and gives 1709-2023 property tax bylaw second reading.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Okay, carried. And then the third motion.
Mayor Barkley, I would move that council give consideration for 1709-2023 property tax bylaw third reading.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wing. All in favor? All right, and then the last motion.
I'll move that we accept and give 1709-2023 property tax bylaw third and final reading.
Okay, thank you. Any final words? Nope. All in favor? Okay, carried. Thank you. All right, and we will move on to 5.2, tax recovery public sale of land with Director Vickers.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So this report is to set a reserve bid required to proceed with a public auction for the recovery of tax arrears. So the tax recovery process is the last resort mechanism municipalities use to collect outstanding property taxes and is a strictly legislative process. When property taxes remain unpaid for more than 2 years, a tax notification caveat is placed on the land title and notification is sent to the landowner and all interested parties listed. If the 2-year tax arrears remain unpaid on March 31st of the following year, the municipality may sell the property by public auction. The municipality has 1 year from April 1st to hold a public auction sale. Council is required to set a reserve bid that is as closely as reasonable possible to the market value of the parcel. Administration requested an opinion of value from Wildrose Assessment Services, and a copy of the opinion of value is attached for Council's information. After Council has made the decision to proceed with selling the property by public auction, a notice is sent to the property owners advising them of the public auction date and the amount of outstanding property taxes that must be paid prior to the start of the auction to stop the sale of their property by public auction. If the outstanding arrears are not paid, the public auction proceeds. So if any property is sold by the public auction, the municipality is permitted to charge an administration fee of 5% of the sale of price to the tax roll. This amount plus the tax arrears and any advertising costs are collected from the sale price. The remaining balance may be paid to the previous landowner. If the municipality is satisfied there are no debts secured by an encumbrance on the title, that's what we do, if we are satisfied. If we're not satisfied there are no other debts that are secured by encumbrances on title, then we must notify the previous owner that an application must be made to recover all or part of the money. And then the town of Innisfil may, after public auction, become the owner of any parcel of land that it is not sold at public auction. So an owner has up until the second that auction closes to pay everything off and to stop the auction. So even once we've started the auction, they can still rush in and pay their money and then they get their house. So the terms of the sale are this. Now this is something that we can choose. We've just chosen that. So all payments must be made by cash, bank draft, or certified check. A 30% down payment at public auction is required with balance of 30 days of the date of the public auction. If the remaining balance is not paid by the due date, the deposit will be forfeited and the town considerable the next available bid. So there are no future or direct costs resulting from any of the recommended motions, as all costs will be added to the property tax rolls for the affected property. The required notification in the newspapers and website will be completed by the dates established by the MGA, and a draft advertisement is attached that will be posted in the Albertan. So I am looking for 2 different motions. So the first motion is to set the reserve bid for the identified property at $148,000, which is what the opinion is that is attached. And then we have asked for Wednesday, June 14th at 10 a.m. to be the public auction date to be held in council chambers at the Town of Innisfil Administration Building.
Okay, thank you, Director Vickers. Can I please have someone make the first motion? Councillor Wing?
Mayor Barkley, I would move that council set the reserve bid for roll 196800, lot 2A, block 22, plan 7821610 at $148,000.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about the process? All in favor? Okay, carried. Please have someone make the second motion. Councillor Bates.
Sure, I'll move that council set Wednesday, June 14th, 2023 at 10 a.m. as the public auction date to be held in council chambers, Town of Innisfail admin building.
All right, thank you. Any comments? No, all in favor? Okay, carried. Okay, thank you. And then we will go on to 5.3, the Urban Hen Review with Director Vickers.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Barkley. So administration is here to provide council with the opportunity to review and assess the 2-year Urban Hen pilot program and to deliberate on the future of an Urban Hen program in Innisfail. So on May 1st of 2021, Bylaw 1662-2021, the Urban Hen Pilot Program Bylaw was approved, creating the town's 2-year pilot program regulating and controlling the keeping of urban hens. The pilot program is now coming to an end as of April 30th, 2023. Any direction on the future of an urban hen program could be drafted by administration for consideration at the April 24th, 2023 regular council meeting. So we did have a bit of a draft on what we were going to look at. So the first item was number of licenses purchased. Currently, we had 2 households that had purchased licenses out of the 5 that were available in the pilot program. So we did solicit feedback from the general public. The town advertised the program review through social media, Town Voice, the March utility insert, and requested residents to submit any comments they may have on the program via a dedicated web form or written submissions. The public had the opportunity to respond during the period of March 6th to the 31st. We had received 50 comments and 3 letters, and those are all attached for your review. So we did sit down and have a meeting with municipal enforcement. We had received 5 complaints during the pilot period. No fines or tickets were ever imposed as they used those 5 instances as a education and learning situation. And once a complaint came in and they educated the resident, that same complaint never happened again. So there was no issues or complaints felt by our municipal enforcement to not continue with the program. So inquiries received in 2023 from any interested participants. So since January 1st of 2023, administration has been contacted by 11 different individuals who are interested in the future of the program and potentially participating. That would exceed our level of 5 that we currently allow. So summary of other programs currently in place. So we did add an updated summary of programs in other municipalities as well. So cost to the town to implement the 2-year program was negligible. Areas where resources were required to create the program included the Peace Officer Urban Hen course attendance, staff time to research and draft the bylaw, application forms, informational materials, and dedicated webpage. The processing, applications, and initial inspection of coops, which I know the actual inspection of coops takes about, I believe, 15 to 30 minutes, so not an extensive time. And the annual license fee of $65 contributed to offsetting some of these administrative processes. So without looking into any of the background, we would like council to provide direction to administration on the future of the Urban Hen program in the town of Innisfail.
Okay, thank you, Director Vickers. Comments?
Thank you, Mayor
Councillor
Barkley. Comments, yes. I fully support this program, and I'd like to see it continue. Based on the feedback that we've got from the constituents and the requirements that are required to obtain a license, and I think it's working. And what concerns me is that if we do away with the program, what happens in 6 months when the other 7 people come forth and say, I'd like to have, are we back to where we're at, trying to figure out what we're going to do with the urban hens? So I'd like to proceed on a full-time program with the urban hen program based on the feedback. Out of the 50 or 53 responses we received, I think I read 3 that were negative. As far as face-to-face walkabouts and some of the questions that I've been asking on the street, I've had one negative comment about hands, and it was just to do with the whole program. It had nothing to do with, you know, my neighbor and that, and the requirements of the program. So based on that, I fully support what administration has put in place and what they've done over the past 2 years, and I commend you for that. So my comment would be that we continue full-time and it remove the pilot, and it would be an urban hen program for the municipality of Innisfail.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. I'm in favor. I would like to have our licenses capped at 5 max. I you know, don't want to put too much, I guess, pressure onto bylaw and stuff if it got to be too many, but I think with everything that's in place on how people get the licenses and the requirement to go through the program to get license and whatnot. One concern I did have was comment number 13. When in the documents there seemed to be a move out and some tenants came in and the new people that came in were not apparently licensed. So I don't know whether that's been looked after, but that would be my only concern. But yeah, I'm in favor as long as we have a cap on it. Councillor Bates.
Probably not many people know, but I grew up with 300 chickens, and I was doing chicken chores on the farm. So no, I have nothing against the chickens. I do think, like, we've got 50 comments there. Some of them, of course, are just people wanting chickens, and some of them are berating dogs and cats and other things. I think we should probably continue with the program. I would like to see administration distill the comments that are actually pertinent to the pilot, the ones that relate to coops that did exist, distill those down and make some recommendations to us as to whether some of the current rules that were in there are continued or slightly modified. Maybe that would take care of the one that the mayor just mentioned. Yeah, I think, and I mean, if you look at the other towns, about 60% are doing it. I'm sure some of the folks in the audience, I doubt any of them are out there to protest chickens, but no, I think we can do it. I'd like to see us, because we did the 2-year pilot. Let's distill those results and have admin in consultation with bylaw make some recommendations to us.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Wing.
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, I like chickens too. I like eggs the best, but anyways, I guess just to build on my colleague Councillor Bates's comments, and because the pilot was started prior to us new folks being on council, I'm curious about the process though around actually evaluating the pilot program bylaw. So were there key performance indicators that were put in place in advance? Did the town say, you know, these are some of the key things that we need to keep an eye on from a regulatory perspective? So yes, further to Councillor Bates's comments, if we need to make any adjustments, any additions, deletions to the actual bylaw, I think this is the time that we should be having that conversation. So glad to have, I think 50 comments from the community is great. I was really encouraged when I saw that. But I think from our perspective now, we just need to be sure that we've hit the mark with what the bylaw looks like. Thank you.
Councillor Messaros.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with all of my colleagues here. I was so impressed by the number of comments that came in and then the quality of the comments as well, and then the fact that almost all of them were positive for the program. I think, kind of along the same lines as Councillor Wing. There were some, what's the word I'm looking for? Not criticisms, but suggestions more about what might be done to streamline the bylaw. And I just have a question. So we gave 2 licenses to 2 households from the inception of the pilot project. And now you've already had 11 people interested since 2023 January 2023. Are those people all interested in purchasing a license, or they were interested just in information about the project?
Mayor Barkley through to Councillor Messaros. So I'm not sure their level of enthusiasm, right? They just wanted information about the program and potentially to inquire about a license, but not for sure that all 11 of those people wanted a license.
I think it's a great program. I'm proud that Innisfil has it. Yeah, thanks.
I believe we had a little bit of that when we did the pilot program too, did we not? There was a lot of interest in it, but
Yeah.
then when it actually came to getting the license and having to go through the Urban Hen program and everything you had to do,
You're right, Mayor Barkley, we only had one license for
That's
the
right.
very first year, and we
Yeah.
only even got our second license, I think, in the second year of the program, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
yeah. Councillor Harrison?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. And just another comment. About 2 weeks ago, the city of Calgary just announced that they've opened up their licenses. They don't have an amount anymore. I forget what the numbers were, but now anybody that applies for a license in the city of Calgary can certainly get a license. And the number of comments that came back in Calgary was that it's the way of housing a pet now are way different than they were before. And, you know, the Urban Hen program is part of that. It's not to raise chickens for eggs. It's more of a social thing, you know, the children, the whole 9 yards. So, we need to start to think outside the box a little bit. And based on the comments that have come back from our constituents, I can sort of see, or we can see, where we're headed. So I thank you for that, and that would be just, it's more of a comment at the end of the day.
CEO Becker?
Thanks, Mayor Barkley. Just onto your council, but also inclusive of Director of Corporate Services, would a recommendation, Erica, for administration to draft a Urban Hen program bylaw and make recommendations based on the public feedback received. So we'll come back to you in a full new program, full new bylaw, inclusive of what do we do if there's more than 5, almost like a lotteries or a deadline. So certain things we'll have to think about and advise you in forthcoming weeks with a new program.
Sure. I was just thinking about our capacity around the 5, that's all. So does somebody want to make that motion, please? Councillor Bates?
I was just going to add a comment, and then I will make the motion.
Okay, sure.
I'm sure, too, as you do that, you can look at others' experiences even outside our pilot, because, I mean, there were funny things happen. I think the Olds Fire Department had to put out a deck because somebody was heating their chicken coop underneath it. And, you know, stuff happens. And so, anyway, I'm totally content with the motion as you read it, CAO Becker, and I'll make that motion that's what we instruct you to do. Come back with the direction from analyzing the pilot and coming up with some of the boundaries of the anticipated things that you see.
All right, thank you. Anything else? No? All in favor? All right, great, thank you. Okay, we will move into correspondence and information. And when somebody's ready, please make a motion that we accept the correspondence as information.
Mayor Barkley, I would make the motion that we accept correspondence as information.
Thank you, Councillor Wing. All in favor? Perfect, thank you. And then we'll go into council reports, and we'll start today with Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Yes, last week I had a very interesting hour and a half. I attended a workshop, a seminar at St. Marguerite's with the guest speaker of Alison Springer. She's a motivational speaker from Calgary, and she came up on the workshop that we attended was the grade 6 and 7s. Talked to the young students about their bare pillars that they have in school, about, you know, the contributions that even at that age they give to the community and to society. It was a very, what can I say, an active. Allison is a very great, involved speaker, and I certainly got a lot out of it. We can always learn. It doesn't matter what age you're at. There were things that certainly I picked up. So, and the kids were quite engaging. It was good to see. And I've often said, you know, our future's in good hands when I see these little guys that, and they're not so little, like grade 6 and 7. Some of them were bigger than I was. But yeah, so that was last week. I do have a couple of things coming up this week, so it's going to be a busy time. And now that spring's here, it's nice to get out and enjoy the spring weather. So, thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. I attended MPC last week. I'm just thinking maybe we need a motivational speaker to come to those meetings. They're pretty quiet, but anyways. As well as we had a trade show debrief this coming week. We have the housing assessment tomorrow, as well as our meeting with the Municipal Affairs Critic. And additionally, the Chamber of Commerce monthly board meeting is Wednesday. So thank you, spring is here.
Perfect, thank you. And Councillor Messaros.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Last week I attended the Woodlands Area Structure Plan open house, and I found that extremely valuable to go and listen to the questions and comments of the citizens around that area, and also to hear the how the questions were answered in terms of, you know, concrete technical information. So that was a great meeting, and then a couple of things this week that Councillor Wing mentioned tomorrow. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bates.
So I had MPC last week, and yeah, the Woodlands structure specific to the Laybon development, I guess, was it was really their presentation portion of the whole Woodlands. I did stumble across a Red Deer Advocate story last week, and I talked to the CAO about it, and he said he would check into it a little bit about recycling. It looks like, according to, well, the way the article was written, Lacombe was upset because they weren't eligible for some recycling subsidy from the province, and I'll just maybe ask CIO to tell us what he found out. In the last, yeah, today.
Mayor Barkley, Councillor Bates, I'm the prep director of operations on this, but looks through the new legislation on the EPR, extended producer responsibility program, that some municipalities received either a grant or rebate of some sort, and there's a few municipalities listed in this news article. We were not listed in that article, so Councillor Bates then responded to me about our affiliation with this program, which I put over to the director, which I put over to Stephen, but we are looking into the question. We felt we do have a understanding of the program and those dollars, but I'm not sure, Stephen, if you could add to really what we're looking for and see if we are affiliated with that program.
Sure, yeah, we are looking, I've had Allison look into and reply with the program just to confirm that we're on the list for eligibility for grant in 2025. So yeah, we'll provide council a more update on that. And then what I got from the article itself was, it was more, they don't have a curb recycling program, so they are not eligible to 2026 potentially. They're just not on the first year. So I don't think I read that it was, they just weren't making the first year. So potential is there, but to be honest, yeah, we've been doing a lot of research on the program. It's not clear exactly, so we are kind of waiting to get more direction and provide council obviously with some more update on it. So yeah, we'll provide you with some more update as we get it as well. So there isn't a lot out there though.
Okay, yeah, well, the way I read it was Lacombe wasn't eligible initially because they were still using depots rather than curbside. I guess I missed that part. So even the other ones that were listed, they aren't eligible either till 2025. Is that okay? Okay, so hopefully we can. Yeah, that'd be great if we get in there with them. And then this week I have the Housing Engagement and Water Commission meeting. That's it.
Okay, thank you. So last week, met with Kelly Farrell from Careers, along with Director Vickers, Innisfail High School. It looks like they will be hosting a job fair in May, and Kelly is kind of organizing this, and along with Chris Henderson at the Innisfail High School. So looking forward to that. Gave her contact information for the chamber because we thought it'd be a great idea to have them involved as well. I was also at the Catholic Church St. Marg's Day that Councillor Harrison mentioned with Alison Springer. Wonderful day, and I understand that they'll probably be doing another session with her. I met with Amber Tebow. Amber was here last week doing a presentation to us on palliative care, so I met with her, get some more information for our upcoming discussion with Minister Copping on the 18th of April. I also met with Wendy Evans from the Primary Care Network to strategize around the meeting with Minister Copping, so we'll probably have a couple of physicians along with Wendy join us that day to talk about healthcare in our community. And then was at the public open house at the library the other night for the Woodlands Area Structure Plan. Great to see the interest from the residents that came out to that. And then tomorrow, of course, the housing assessment discussion and the municipal affairs critic, and then off to the Economic Developers Association conference in Kananaskis for a couple of days after that. So we will move into open mic. Does anybody in the gallery want to say anything? You're welcome to come up to the mic if you'd like to say something. Somebody shy? Do they want to come up and say something? No? Mom's going to come instead. And there's a button on the mic there. You can just turn it on, please, and just state your name. And
my name is Genevieve Wilson. Thank you for hearing about the HEN program, our project pilot, whatever it's called. My family is very excited as we moved recently to Innisfail, and I've always wanted to partake in one. I just had a recommendation for the program. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that, or maybe even ask for volunteers from the town if they wanted to be on, like, part of the committee to look over the chickens, rather than taking people who already have full-time positions and adding another thing onto their day. I can only imagine their hours are already full with 40, 50 hours, who knows, 60, some people. But I know there's lots of retired people in town who might even enjoy going around and checking on the coops and have an official hen volunteer person. Just an idea for the town. Thank you.
well, thank you very much. That's a good idea. Thank you. Anybody else say anything? No? Okay. Then we will move into a motion, please, to go in camera.
I'll move that we go in camera, Mayor Barkley.
Thank you, Councillor Messaros. All in favor? Okay.